Um, Sounds good. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. We are excited to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon, Harnessing the Power of AI and Managed Services. We have a pretty exciting session lined up with Jay Cann and also Miguel Sanchez. Just a few housekeeping rules. We want this to be interactive, of course, so we are going to launch a few poll questions throughout the presentation. Would love to get your participation in that. And then certainly we are going to leave time for Q&A. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we will make sure that we address them. If we don't have time for any particular reason, we want to make sure we get all those questions in the chat so that way we can follow up with everyone if we don't have any time for whatever reason. Also, if you would like to raise your hand and speak, please do so. You could do that directly in the chat as well too. If there's something specifically you want to have Jay or Miguel answer as well too. But please feel free to engage with us. We look forward to it, and I think you'll be very excited to get into our discussion. So I'm going to have Jay introduce himself.
Great. Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Cann. I'm CTO here at Synoptic, and I'm an AI SME. I have been working in tech for a little over 30 years. I actually worked back when the web launched back on weather.com in 1984. That's how long I've been doing this stuff. And my particular focus and background has been around technology and customer experience in particular. And as of a few years ago, getting deeply into what we call modern AI, which is in the age of transformers. And Miguel?
Okay, over to you, Miguel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miguel Sanchez. I'm our Senior Vice President of our Professional Services organization, and really focused on a lot of the transformational activities, customers and industry experts to really, move environments to the modern age, and all of the things that are involved in that. And oftentimes, we think of technology and the complexity around it as much as they try to push the simplicity of it. But it's really about how do you effectively do that, practical use and really managing and helping the organization through that transformation and through their evolution.
Excellent. Tina, did you have a poll you wanted to do now?
We can jump into the agenda and then I can launch it from there.
Sounds good. All right, so a quick overview. We're going to present the little bit of the AI landscape and some emerging opportunities. We're going to talk about the impact of AI across a bunch of high-level managed services. We'll give you some key takeaways, and we'll talk about an offer that we have if you're interested. And we'll move into Q&A.
Thank you. All right, Jay took my thunder here, but I am going to launch a poll. If you wouldn't mind participating in it, we would love it. You should see it pop up on the screen. I'll give everyone a few minutes. All right, I'm seeing some answers coming in.
All right, well, I'll get started while those roll in still. So in terms of AI empowering managed services, it cannot overstate the wide impact on multiple domains that generative AI is having and will have in the near future on managed services and honestly across the entire landscape of business and consumer usage. The present AI landscape is characterized by extremely rapid advancements, widespread adoption across industries, and there's also an evolving regulatory and ethical framework that goes along with all of this. The whole AI field continues to evolve at an unprecedented pace. I know we've all seen that, and it's driven by significant investments, and enormous investments in research breakthroughs, and the integration of AI into consumer and enterprise applications at every level. Very dynamic landscape. It's opening up numerous emerging opportunities across just about every sector. And as you can tell, from the right side of this graph, AI skills are highly desired. So the ability to work with modern AI is a top desire for recruiters and for hiring in companies right now. So let's talk about some managed service practices in leveraging AI. We're going to go through some high-level areas here. We're going to talk about elevating customer interactions through AI, through precision in operations with predictive maintenance. This includes both industrial as well as software and software stack and server level, intelligent resource allocation, strategic decision-making with data-driven insights, and nurturing a culture of innovation in development with some of these tools. Let's jump into it. So when we're talking about elevating customer interactions through AI, you might immediately think of something like chatbots, but not yesterday's chatbots, or today's virtual assistants and interactions, and being able to do things like personalization at scale. So generative AI enables tailored responses and interactions that make each customer ideally feel understood and valued, and not like they're talking just to a robot. We can use AI to analyze historical customer data to personalize services, recommendations, solutions, with the goal of enhancing customer satisfaction and loyalty. And to do that, we can do some efficient and automated things. We can reduce response times and increase efficiency. And that's particularly relevant in handling like really routine inquiries or providing instant support that free up human agents to focus on more complex things that require escalation. It also grants us a consistency in customer service. So the AI ensures a consistent level of service across all customer interactions, because unlike human agents who may have varying levels of expertise, might be having a bad day, AI can maintain a steady, high quality standard of interaction and can even tailor that interaction based on what it knows about its audience. It also has 24/7 availability. So that's a significant advantage of AI in customer service. It's round-the-clock availability. So customers can receive support and assistance at any time. And that leads us to some data-driven insights as well. When using this as in a customer support capacity, generative AI can analyze large volumes of customer interactions, historical and real time, and provide some valuable insights into that. So those insights can inform business strategies, improve services, and can even predict future customer needs and trends. And of course, this can all lead to cost reduction, because by automating some of the routine and low-level stuff and handling a significant volume of customer interactions, generative AI can reduce operating costs. We all know that it's very expensive to operate call centers to leverage human resources for these sorts of things. But we can instead focus those resources into more complex tasks and allow the AI to handle some of the front end interactions. But we need to, this also allows us to enhance that human agent collaboration. So we're not talking about replacing humans. We're talking about augmenting what humans already do well. So AI can work in tandem with human agents, handling those initial interactions, escalating more complex issues to humans. And the collaboration can lead to more effective problem solving and a better overall customer experience. One of the things that generative AI also excels at is language and accessibility, in that it is multilingual, it is highly accessible, it can overcome language barriers and offer support in multiple languages and broaden the reach of services. It can also make services more accessible to people with disabilities. It can also adjust cognitive levels. It can adjust tone and idioms and other things tailored to a specific audience. So it's very flexible in taking the same data set and displaying that data set tailored and customized to the specific audience that it's talking to. So 60% of CX leaders expect AI to have a transformative or significant impact. And if we look at where we expect artificial intelligence and machine learning will have the most impact, you'll see the enabling customer self-service and actionable customer insights is right there at the top. And to give you an example of like a business challenge that we've tackled with this, we've seen is we have a large clothing retailer that struggles with high call volume and long wait times in their customer service, and the store lacked personalization. So by using AI-powered chatbots to handle simple inquiries like order tracking, product information, returns, things like that, frees up human agents for more complex issues. And integrating into the online store, virtual assistants to use AI to recommend products based on individual customer preferences and past purchases creates a more personalized shopping experience that allows us to market better. We can also do sentiment analysis. You can tell if somebody's getting upset when they're talking to the chatbot, or what their tone is, or what their state of mind is when they are interacting, whether it's through calls or emails or through social media. It allows us to identify areas where to focus for improvement and to proactively address customer concerns. And of course, integrating with all of our other systems, whether that's an action and response system, whether it's integrating with the chatbots or virtual assistants or in the order management system. We can integrate it at many different levels. Of course, the benefits on the side: reduce call volumes and wait times, increasing customer satisfaction, gaining those data-driven insights, and ideally, increasing sales. That's why we're doing this. So let's talk next about, we want to move into precision in operations with predictive maintenance. And I think I actually skipped one. There we go. Precision operations with predictive maintenance. So let's talk about operational efficiency. So generative AI can anticipate. Now, this can work both in the real world and in virtual world. So in our case, we're talking about how generative AI can anticipate equipment failures on a industrial production line. It can just as easily do the same thing when we're talking about virtual servers and a software stack. But it can anticipate equipment failures and suggest preventative measures, which lead to fewer unplanned outages and optimized operational schedules. So we can primarily achieve that through a combination of predictive analysis, machine learning models, and deep learning techniques. So for example, might suggest adjusting the load on a machine or changing some operational parameters, or scheduling a maintenance checkup, an out-of-band checkup, based on the AI's understanding of the equipment's condition in the operational context. That leads to more effective maintenance strategies, which leads to cost savings. So it can lead to some obvious and potentially substantial cost savings through the reduction of unplanned downtime and the extension of machinery life. So predictive maintenance can decrease maintenance costs by predicting those issues before they become critical, which is something you can't normally get when you're just on a strictly calendar-based schedule for doing these sorts of things. Improved safety. Predictive maintenance can enhance safety by identifying potential hazards before they lead to accidents, which reduces, ensures safer workplace, but also reduces the risk of costly litigation. From a data utilization standpoint, generative AI can process vast amounts of data from various sources. It's particularly good at teasing out subtle patterns within that data that's very, very difficult for humans to identify. But this can include IoT devices, include sensors that can predict failures with increasingly high accuracy. So the more data we give it over time, the more accurate it gets. And through those machine learning algorithms, it can recognize patterns and anomalies that may indicate potential failures. So for example, it can learn the normal operating conditions of a piece of equipment and detect deviations from those norms that signal a possible future failure. And of course, we can customize and adapt from there. So I want to stress the AI's ability to learn and adapt to specific operational environments, which will improve predictive accuracy over time. So as the generative AI continues to operate, it continues to gather more data and enables models to learn and improve over time. For strategic planning purposes, predictive maintenance insights can inform strategic decisions, like helping to plan for future capacity needs, for investment in new equipment, for workforce allocation, or other resource allocations. And of course, for quality assurance, for maintaining equipment in optimum conditions that leads to consistent quality in the production process. So currently 62% of global enterprises will explicitly use off-the-shelf AI software in their business processes to facilitate intelligent operations. And 95% of respondents reported that predictive maintenance improved at least one key maintenance value driver. So, and again, another real-world example of this is an oil and gas company that struggles with unplanned downtime at their offshore drilling rigs. leading to low lost production, safety hazards, high repair costs, and traditional time-based maintenance schedules miss those early signs of failure. So by using a variety of sensors and data collection, cloud data storage, and processing analysis, and machine learning models to learn and predict potential equipment failures, we can alert and change the operational model and improve, reduce unplanned downtime, improve safety, lower those maintenance costs, and increase operational efficiency overall. Which brings us to orchestrating excellence with intelligent resource allocation. Again, an area where generative AI excels. Enhancing decision-making. So analyzing historical data and predicting future trends. We've talked a little bit about that already with some of those prior slides, but allowing for more informed decisions regarding resource allocation. Because we can simulate various scenarios to identify the best strategies for resource distribution. We can play what-if scenarios. Using dynamic resource optimization. So generative AI can adapt to changing conditions in real time. That can help us ensure that resources are allocated efficiently as demand shifts. Whether that's it's crucial for dynamic industries like energy and logistics, healthcare, but allows us to size up, size down, and really anticipate what those needs are going to be. For example, in the energy sector, we can optimize the distribution of electricity from renewable sources to the grid, depending on demand and supply fluctuations, which will ideally reduce reliance on costly or less environmental friendly alternatives. Using predictive workforce allocation, we have an active project doing this now, where AI has the capability to forecast project needs and allocate human resources proactively. So that can reduce under or overstaffing and ensure that the teams are optimally sized for the skilled for the tasks at hand. Using cost reduction and profit maximization. So AI-driven resources, the resource allocation can lead to significant cost savings, minimizing waste, ensuring resources are invested where they can generate the highest return. So an AI-driven automation of routine tasks can significantly reduce labor costs and human error. Moving into demand forecasting, AI-driven predictive analytics can forecast future demand for products, services, resources with pretty high accuracy, particularly as more data we feed into it. And by predicting those demand peaks and troughs, we can allocate resources more efficiently and reduce the risk of overproduction or underproduction, which of course minimizes waste and maximizes utilization. And capacity planning. So part of this is predicting that those future capacity requirements of systems and infrastructure that allow us to do proactive expansion or proactive scaling down if needed to avoid bottlenecks or excess expenditure. This leads to some supply chain resilience, where we can create some robust supply chain models using generative AI that respond to disruptions, that can reallocate resources or adjust production and distribution plans to minimize the impact on operations when unexpected things happen. But of course, we always have to balance automation with human intervention. So the integration of AI-driven automation in various sectors, it can enhance efficiency and decision-making speed and cost effectiveness, but the deployment of these technologies raises questions about there's ethical considerations, there's potential for bias, there's the need for nuanced decision-making that AI alone doesn't fully address. So AI systems excel at processing a vast amount of data and identifying those patterns within it, but they lack the ability to understand the context in the way humans do, at least today. We're working towards that, but for now, they lack that ability to understand the full context the way that humans do, especially in complex or novel situations, or situations that require, human emotional intelligence or empathy or moral judgment. So those are things that we cannot rely on AI solely to deliver. The things we need to keep in mind, especially when we're talking about resource allocation and human resource allocation in particular. So AI benefits, include improving operations and decision-making and freeing up workers to concentrate on less mundane tasks. And again, this is the goal. It's not necessarily to replace people. It's to free them up to do less mundane work, more valuable. So this is a business challenge that we are currently tackling. So large hospital that's struggling with inefficient resource allocation that can lead to staff burnout, patient wait times, underutilized resources. So scheduling when you have layered requirements of um, certification requirements and hourly requirements, daily requirements, the certain amount of, just like with pilots, nurses and doctors have a certain amount of hours that they're allowed to work in a row. There's a lot of different variables that go into building human resource scheduling in a large hospital. So collecting that data, tracking staff availability and skills, and matching patient treatment requirements, having equipment and bed availability, but doing that dynamic scheduling and routing is something that AI is particularly well suited to do. This is a challenge that if you've ever worked in this sort of industry, and it doesn't necessarily have to be healthcare, but working with scheduling humans, this is a very complex and time-consuming process to get it down. And AI has granted us some huge leaps in making this process more manageable. To that end, strategic decision making with these data-driven insights. We've talked about data-driven insights on prior slides. But what else can we do with it? So enhancing forecasting abilities. So generative AI can sift through, I guess we talked about before, can sift through huge amounts of data, more than humans can tackle at once. Huge amounts of data, and identify patterns and trends that may not be apparent to humans, and learning to more accurately forecast market demands or resource needs or financial outcomes. So we can do real-time analysis and responses in relation to that data. We can analyze that data in real time and make some strategic decisions more quickly in response to changing market conditions or operational challenges. And while I mentioned before that humans are particularly good at much more complex problems, that's not to say that AI cannot help us there. It can model very complex scenarios and provide some data-driven solutions to help support strategic decisions that involve multiple variables and potential outcomes. So you can run a lot of what-if scenarios very quickly and efficiently. We can also manage risk. We can predict potential risks by identifying those subtle patterns in data and allowing companies to take proactive measures to mitigate those risks before they materialize, which leads to some innovation and competitive advantage. We can analyze market trends and internal performance data, and generative AI can identify opportunities for innovation for keeping companies ahead of competition. For strategic marketing, which we talked about on the very first section, can optimize marketing strategies, predict consumer behavior, can help segment customers, help segment products, personalize marketing campaigns, and do it at scale. We can eke out supply chain efficiency, provide insights into supply chain management, identify bottlenecks, and suggest improvements for logistics and inventory management, vendor relations, which all leads to decision-making speed. The speed at which AI can process and provide data insights which is crucial for making those timely strategic decisions, is huge. And of course, this isn't static. There's continuous learning and adaptation. So these systems improve over time, constantly learning from new data, which means that the insights and strategic recommendations they provide become more accurate and more relevant the more they're used. So 83% of CEOs want their organization to be more data-driven. I know we've all been hearing this for years. We want to be more data-driven, which organizations with data-leading cultures, as you can read here, 4.6 times more likely to use data in major decisions, 6.3 times more likely to use data in daily meetings. These are some large leaps. And the goal, of course, the benefit is to reduce costs, increase efficiency, some sustainability, and ultimately competitive advantage. So we can use generative AI for demand forecasting, machine learning, and analytics, for advanced data collection for various sources. We do this in some of the scenarios we've already mentioned. We also do it for cybersecurity and other areas like that. Predictive maintenance, both from a software stack and from a hardware perspective as well, hardware line. And of course, use it for marketing and for dynamic pricing. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is nurture a culture of innovation and development. So we want to empower creative problem solving. And that's something that generative AI does very, very well. It can process and analyze data in really innovative ways that leads to some creative problem solving that goes beyond traditional methods. It encourages teams to really think outside the box and consider new approaches. What's really interesting is that the latest generative AI models are surprisingly creative. They actually rate higher than humans on a creativity scale in a lot of different tests. They're very, very, or can be very, very creative if prompted properly. It can also facilitate some really rapid prototyping. So we can very quickly generate multiple scenarios and models to enable prototyping at speed. So that rapid innovation fosters a culture where ideas are quickly brought to life and tested. Democratizing data access is huge. By making these insights in prototyping and problem solving accessible to non-technical staff, allows everyone in the organization to make data-driven decisions. It encourages a more inclusive approach to innovation. So this is primarily enabled by the natural language interface to complex problems that removes those technical barriers. In the past, if you wanted to get access to and query your data in a particular way, well, you had to get that to somebody who knows Power BI, who knows how to write reports, how to actually organize that data together, actually code against it to write the queries that you need to bring back the information that you want. Not anymore. You can ask the generative AI to do that for you. It will generate those queries based on what your actual intent is and what you're trying to ask it. So it removes an enormous level of technical barriers and cost to getting direct access to the data and running these types of scenarios. So that democratizing data access, I can't overstress that. We can also inspire some new business models because with predictive capabilities from generative AI, we can explore new business models and revenue streams and kind of stay ahead of the market trends and customer needs. We can encourage some risk taking because we can simulate those outcomes of different innovative strategies. We can provide a safety net that encourages some calculated risk taking within that process. We can automate routine tasks, which again takes some of the mundane tasks out of the day and frees employees to focus on the really strategic and innovative work that will raise the overall intellectual capital of an organization. And then, of course, integrating customer feedback. So we can analyze customer feedback at scale to inform the development of new products, services, and customer service to ensure that innovation is always being customer-centric. So among survey respondents with AI implementations, more than 75% of them saw improvements to team morale, collaboration, and collective learning. So the benefits being an engaged workforce, increased customer satisfaction, increased efficiency, higher adaptability among employees, and just overall a happier workforce. So, an example of a business challenge is just a company that has, constant pressure to be faster and more efficient, but siloed approaches kind of hinder that. So we can empower employees with these natural language AI interfaces to embrace experimentation and break down some of those departmental silos. And again, using AI to automate some tasks and optimize operations and free up time to be able to do this kind of work.
Okay, before you move on to the next slide, I have a poll to launch here.
New poll.
New poll coming your way. Give everyone a few minutes. All right. Great participation on this one.
Excellent.
Love it. I'll keep it open. You're more than welcome to.
All right, sounds good. Miguel, do you want to talk about the AI envisioning session possibility? I'll pop that up to the next slide.
Yeah, sure. So much of what drove these webinars and these series of webinars is there's a lot of buzz in the market. So really anywhere you go, everyone's talking about AI. So as an example, I travel a lot, so I'm at the airport, people learn what I do, and the conversation naturally comes up. My dad texts me just about every other day, wanting to learn a little bit about it. Not only that, but he's interested in the stock market and what's going on over there. So he's just super interested. So it seems everywhere you go, everyone's talking about it. It reminds me of the early days of cloud, but this is a little bit different. And it seems like, there is a rush really to integrate this into our, everyday lives, whether that be professionally or personally. And as Jay mentioned, lots of use cases, lots of benefits, but there's also a lot of considerations. There's practical use and ethical use. And it's really about, where it makes sense, how it makes sense, and then how to implement it in a way that drives to that particular outcome. So it's really not about rushing, especially from a business perspective, that AI is going to do all these things. It's really about, what are we trying to achieve as a business? What are we trying to do? How are we trying to do that? And how can AI, support and augment our current capability to do that? And I think it is important because there's a lot of discussion around the table whether or not AI is going to take over all of our lives and all of our jobs. Well, that's not the intent, right? And it never has been. It's really about how do we get, more efficient, more creative, more innovative, more effective at what we do. And it's really just leveraging, again, the technology to be able to do that. So what this series is really about is a proactive outreach, to schedule AI sessions. We're getting a lot of inquiries from customers as to what it is, how they can use it within their environment, how to achieve a particular business outcome. We are currently doing a lot of work in this space across industries, and you saw a lot of those examples in the previous slides. And I think what's important is, what led to, the discussion and the implementation, and in some cases, the actual, we're still in process of doing that, was a discussion up front as to exactly what the organization was trying to achieve, and biting off chunks, maybe just a pilot in some cases as to what can be achieved. And that's really opening the door for other items. So what this is really about is an AI envisioning session, a few hours to spend with you to really think through what it is and how it specifically applies to your business. Now, I think everyone on this call, we are a customer or we're a provider, you're a customer, and you have access to these types of resources. And we want to make ourselves available to talk through this because it is something that is certainly discussed around the table, and we want to make sure that we're providing that kind of guidance and support to be able to help you from a business perspective. So the follow-up to this is, again, we're here. You have our emails, and a lot of you are currently working with us today. So there's already daily interaction. And then we will provide some follow-up, with your key contacts to see if you want to discuss further.
Great. Thanks, Miguel. So some key takeaways, again, were from what we talked about. Personalization, efficiency are pivotal. Generative AI can personalize customer interactions at scale and make operations more efficient, leading to higher customer satisfaction, operational excellence. Predictive maintenance as a cost saver. Intelligent allocation drives success. And innovation culture is key to growth with all of this. And AI is, as Miguel's mentioned, it's a collaborative partner. It's not a replacement. It's a collaborative partner for what we already do. And as Miguel mentioned, he talked about the AI envisioning sessions we're making available to our existing customers. Would also like to point out that we have some upcoming other webinars. Tina, do you want to talk about these? You want me to talk about them?
Yeah, we want to encourage everyone that is here to join us for our upcoming webinar on Wednesday, February 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The topic is Beyond the Myth, Mastering Nonprofit Technology Strategies. And it's going to be led by Jerry McGlenn, who is our practice director for consulting. You can also scan the QR code. You can get additional detailed information. And then right after that, a couple weeks later, we have also with Jay, Cann, and a guest speaker from Forrester, as well as a guest speaker from Microsoft on Tuesday, March 26th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to be discussing reimagine customer engagement in the age of AI. So again, we encourage you to join us, and we welcome any feedback as well too. So feel free to drop it in the chat as well too. If there's some other topics that are burning that you'd like us to address, we definitely want to take your feedback. and put together a great webinar for you.
Great. Thanks, Tina. All right. So any questions?
Questions, yes. Please drop them in the chat. I'll review them. I'll tee them up for Alex or, I'm sorry, for Jay or Miguel. Everyone's being shy this morning, this afternoon.
Everybody's eating their lunch during this webinar. I know
Oh, that's true. Yeah, East Coast, right.
All right.
And our West Coast peeps. I do have one question here
Sure.
from the audience. What advice would you give to an organization that are just starting to explore AI or managed services for managed services?
Do you want me to take a stab at that, or Miguel, do you want to take a stab at it?
Go ahead and I'll jump in. Yeah.
All right, good. So advice to get started in exploring it is get started immediately, now, jump in. There are a wide variety of different services and offerings that are available, but the best advice I can give, though, about exploring AI for managed services is you need to go into it knowing what it is and what it is not good at. There are very specific cautions that I give people whenever we're working with them on AI projects. The primary one being, as much automation as we talk about and that we can do, this stuff is still very new. Hallucinations are real. We need to make sure that there is human intervention or human observation at every level going into it. And also need to use service providers where you know what is happening with your data. So it's very tempting to go and dump your own data into some of the public, whether it's ChatGPT or Anthropic or any of the other, or Google's Gemini, into some of the public LLMs. Don't do that. You need to have some corporate governance over where your data is, particularly if it's proprietary data. While some of these models tell you that they do not train on that data, there's no guarantees with that. We certainly recommend that people look more towards tools, OpenAI under Azure, or under Microsoft Purview, or Duet through Google, where you are given some guarantees as to what is happening with your data and that the data is isolated. So definitely get involved, definitely be aware of how you're getting involved, and definitely be mindful of the security and governance around the data that you're using.
Yeah, I would add to that is really understanding or having an expectation of AI and its capabilities, and having the right expectation. It does remind me of the early days of data analytics and kind of the broader availability of those capabilities. So Microsoft released Power BI, Salesforce, or at the time Tableau, but now Salesforce Tableau. And it gave the impression that, all of us can simply just go download Power BI and or Tableau, and all of a sudden become data analysts, right? Data scientists. And very similar to AI, right? It's how you work with the tools and capabilities, how you develop the models, the context you provide within the prompts. All of that is learned over time. And what we find in some cases, when we're working with customers, is they made an attempt, and it wasn't really, it was a poor attempt. It was more about how you structured the attempt and the expectation of that attempt. So as Jay mentions, jump in. But again, there's a lot more to it. And, if you don't get that immediate result and it didn't, solve your world problems, it's not, it's not because it wasn't able to. It was really what was the engagement within the model and the tool itself.
Thank you, Miguel. We have a few more questions. We want to make sure we can get to them. The next question is, what is the true, if any, difference between AI and ML?
Oh, yes. So they're complementary. So machine learning is taking all of the data and feeding it in and creating the model that we then use, what's called inference in the case of LLMs, against that model to generate our output, generate our answers. So the machine learning part is, for example, if you wanted to teach a machine the difference between a dog and a cat, you take as many images as you get, thousands of images of cats, and you tag them as cats. You take thousands of images of dogs and you tag them as dogs, and you feed them into the engine, in this case, into the transformer model, where we create the model by using different, and it gets a little bit deep into how this works, but basically the algorithms take that tagged high quality information and derive numerical weights based on characteristics it derives from that data set to figure out what is a cat and what is a dog. If humans are, we naturally, we look at one, we can just tell what it is. But if you ask them, well, why is that a cat? Why is it a dog? Well, the nose is kind of triangular, or the ears are kind of pointy, whatever it is. But the machine learning model figures out what those subtle differences are between the two. And then the artificial intelligence part is, I come to it now with an untagged image and say, hey, is this a dog or a cat? And it can run it through that weighted model and give me a definitive answer as to what it is. So it's a very simplified look at kind of how that works. So we use machine learning to process the data to create the model, and then we use artificial intelligence against that model to make inferences for the output that we want.
Thank you, Jay. Next question. How do we maintain security around AI?
Very good question. So as I mentioned before, you certainly need to have some governance policies around what kind of information you use with it. With different, first off, let's differentiate a couple of things. One is you can have on-premise models or open source models that you can run entirely on your own equipment, and you can run in a discrete tenant, and you know that it's secure, it's yours. That is computationally expensive. There's not a lot of people doing it other than for experimentation reasons, because it takes a lot of horsepower to run that, and most people are leasing equipment in the classic models. When you are dealing with other models like OpenAI, or again, Claude with Anthropic, or Amazon's Bedrock, or any of those things, so you are granted through those services a certain amount of security based on what you're putting in there and how that data is used. In the case of Microsoft, when you're using Azure OpenAI Studio, every tenant has a discrete instance of the OpenAI models within their tenant. And for example, if you were running queries against an Azure OpenAI model, it has the same security permissions against what's called the Microsoft Graph that Office 365 and all your other apps have. So it can see only what you already have permissions to see within your organization. So me, as Jay Cann, I have my set of chats, I've got SharePoint, I've got OneDrive, I've got all my Office documents in those storage locations, I've got my calendar, my email, all those things that Microsoft knows about me. When querying against the Microsoft Graph of me, the AI only has access to the same things that I have permissions to, because that's the model that Microsoft has built from a security perspective in that particular case. That is different for every provider. And it's very important to actually read as to what their policy states. It also is very important to know if it trains on your data. They all have disclaimers about that, whether they do or don't. And it very much depends on what level of service that you're contracting for. Whether or not using the API or some of the built-in public front ends. So, but from a security standpoint, it's incredibly important to know where your data is going and who's putting that data in there. And particularly with respect to personally identifiable information. So you got to be very, very careful, just like with anything else, to make sure that that information is not put somewhere inappropriate.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay.
But the larger providers are largely handling that portion of the model.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question that we have is, as a developer, where do I start incorporating AI for my development?
Ooh, excellent question. Is this more from a like a code creation standpoint as a developer? Or what's the angle of the query? Because there are some amazing coding assistant tools. So straight up, ChatGPT is pretty good. ChatGPT 4 with their code interpreter is actually pretty good. However, there are a bunch of really good ones that are integrated straight into the IDE. So if you're using VS Code or IntelliJ or any of the other major IDEs, there's some great ones built in. You can use Copilot from Microsoft, Copilot for GitHub Copilot, which has been around for a while and is really based on GPT-3. It's kind of like actually something called Codex, which was based on GPT-3. It's been around a while, but as of this month, they're launching what used to be called GitHub X, but now it's GitHub Enterprise, which is a coding assistant that is based on GPT-4 and is much broader. So that is actually launching this month. Fantastic in IDE code interpreter, code and code co-coder, essentially, Copilot. In addition to that, there are another number of other services. There's one called Cody, C-O-D-Y, that's really, really good. And there are a number of others that are just excellent at analyzing code. This is actually something that I use it for quite a bit, is taking old code, even if it's code that I wrote like 2 years ago, and I don't remember what I wrote. I don't remember why I did what I did in some cases. Maybe it's documented well with comments, maybe it's not. Or maybe I'm picking up somebody else's code. Dropping that code in and asking it just to tell you, hey, what does this code do? Give me a list of the functions and just kind of explain everything to me. Modern LLMs do a really good job of taking that code and explaining to you exactly what was going on, as well as you can ask it. You can ask it to help you write functions, basic functions, and other things. So that is really good. Some more code interpreters are coming out that look more holistically at the entire code base of the application or project that you're working on, and are even more advanced. So we're seeing rapid iteration in this area. Fantastic stuff, though. Definitely worth taking a look at.
Thank you, Jay. We do have a hand raised in the audience, so I'm going to let this person speak. Mark, you should be able to speak now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to post something in the chat, but my chat was disabled. That's why I raised my hand. But I'm good. You guys answered my question. Thank you so much.
All right, no worries.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
And if you guys do have any other questions that you don't want to raise here, if you want to raise them privately, you can certainly send them to my email. I'm happy to take some time aside and chat with anybody. If you just got some questions you want to bounce against us, we're here for you guys as a resource.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. We greatly appreciate it. And, as Miguel mentioned, we'll follow up with everyone as well, too. So we want to make sure we address any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone. Happy one.
Thank you.
Happy Thursday.
Indeed.